Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I am back and I didn't give up. I haven't stopped reading, but this video did come out a little bit later than I wanted to, but we're still here and we're still going to talk about the books I read. Alright, so in total I believe I read 1, 2, 3 books this month, or I should say February. 3.5. I'm like in the middle of one. I was kind of hoping to read at least the same amount as January, which was 4 or maybe more, but honestly I'm still like above my goal, which is at least 2 books a month, to reach that 24 count by the end of the year. So either way we're good, every month can't be a winner. But yeah, let's just get straight into what books we read and what books I read. And let me tell you about them. So the first book that I read, if you remember last video, I started the last week of March and I finished in February, the first week, and it was Giovanni's Room. It's funny, this one I had known about it since like high school, and the plot always intrigued me, mostly because I was like closeted and I was like, a gay book, oh my god, a man that loves a man, oh my god, I want to read it. And so now after all these years, picked it up, read it. Yeah, it was kind of wild. I don't know what I was expecting, but it takes place in like the 1950s in France. And it's about this guy David, I think, and Giovanni, which is his lover. Oh my god, the first thing I have to say is toxic. This whole book is screaming situationship, first of all. Also, there's these like predatory older gay men. This book I feel like reflects a lot of what gay culture is today, and like how it's not that different from today, and kind of how I feel like at least I drew a lot of parallels to like my own experiences to the characters in this book. And I was just surprised because I don't know, I thought they would be different, like the kind of like situationship of it all. And because David, the main character, who's having, I guess, an affair with Giovanni from his wife, Hella. No, I'm sorry. What's her name? I think it's Hella or Helen. But he like has an affair with Giovanni. And it's like, I don't know, it made me realize like nothing. Oh, it is, sorry, I just was looking at my notes. It is Hella. It's like nothing you think is unique to you is unique to you. It's already happened. Also looking at my notes, it's like I was looking for that word earlier. It's like generational trauma. I could see like how this kind of cycle of just like being, because you're like closeted, and it's like so like it breeds this level of, I don't want to use toxic, it's like, I can't find the word, but I guess I'm just gonna say like toxic culture among gay men, because you have to be you are so isolated, so you only rely on each other. But I feel like in that, because like gay men, not only gay men, but the LGBTQ community has been ostracized for a long time, so it just kind of, it breeds the worst in people sometimes when they're forced to conform and not be who they are. And I feel like this book is kind of the result of that. Like because David, in the book, had a early gay experience when he was young, like in his teens, and you know, it was at a normal age. They both liked each other, but because he was scared of what would happen, that kind of fizzled out. And I feel like ever since that time, he carried that trauma with him throughout his life, and it kind of just builds up, and is the result is what happens in this book. You know, like everyone is just, their whole lives are just so messy. Spoilers. David doesn't end up with any of them. Giovanni, his lover, affair partner, and Hella, his wife. I feel so bad for Hella. Sorry, side note. Like, she was so ahead of her time. Like, she was already questioning, like, do I really, like, it's just so funny. She was like somewhere in Greece or Italy. She was in Spain, while David was in France, because they were like separated because they were having trouble. But they were separated, and then Hella came back a few months later to meet with David because they were gonna reconcile. But when they meet, she's like, do I even need you? Like, why do women need men? Basically is what she was saying. Like, I think we'd be happy if we were separated. And I just love that for her, and I'm glad that she didn't end up with David, because honestly, he was a mess. And I'm glad that didn't work out. Overall though, I think it's a really good book for a reflection of especially gay culture and how it's changed but also hasn't changed, and kind of how you can learn a lot about yourself, like through the lens of these characters. I feel like, at least I did. But I really liked it overall, and it was a pretty I was gonna say it is a short book, but it has a lot of text, so, but I read it relatively quickly, so I would recommend if any of that sounded interesting. Okay. A little bit more. I think that's good. Hopefully. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the next book that I read was Crying in H Mart, a memoir. I forgot to put the names of the author in my notes. I'm so sorry. I think I'll put a picture up though, here or here, because I actually read this by audio on Spotify. So I'm like, Spotify has a lot of audiobooks now. I forget when that happened, but yeah, they have a lot of popular ones, and I saw that a lot of people recommended this for like their favorite books of 2024 or 2023. Like, it was just up there, and I was like, you know what, let me read it on audio. It was kind of my ritual every time I went to the gym for these past few weeks in February, and let me just say, every time I went, I was crying. Okay, not every time, but you guys, the audiobook is narrated by the author, and so the premise of this book is, it's a memoir written by the author about her mother who has passed away from cancer, and it's so real, so raw, vulnerable. The main character's mom is Korean and her father is white, and in a lot of the reviews I saw about this book, or videos that had this book, they mentioned a lot about like how it was having to do a lot with like a mother-daughter relationship, or just like the relationship you have with your mother. And I think that is true, and it's present in the book, but a lot of what I took from it too was like the immigrant experience and having immigrant parents and kind of navigating the American culture growing up and trying to help your parents and navigate their culture while navigating the American culture, and all that kind of coalescing into what you turn into, and yeah, a lot of like trauma that I feel like immigrant parents, I don't want to say inherently, but it's like you can't help but like immigrant kids, you get it, you just, there's like an inherent and it's not, you see, this is what this book tackles so well that I can't put into words. It's just like the inherent immigrant child experience of having immigrant parents, or in this case one parent, but just like kind of what that all means. You're trying to figure yourself out as you're growing up, and I just love this book for that. I think it represents the immigrant child so well. And of course it also deals with mother-daughter relationships, or just mother relationship, which I thought also very well done, and just dealing with like loss. And the reason almost every chapter made me cry is just, it just made me reflect a lot on my own experiences, of thinking about my mother in ways that I hadn't before, how I would react to those things if they ever were to happen. And I know the author's first name is Michelle, but I forget her last name. But the way Michelle wrote this was so good. At least, I feel like the audio really enhanced it because it was coming from her own words and she was narrating it. So I would definitely recommend you listen to the audio of this. It's so good. But yeah, the way she writes is very real. I feel like it's straightforward and in an easy to understand way, but also very thought-provoking and very detail-oriented, which I liked. And yeah, I totally agree with the people who had this book up there. Like, I would probably have this book up there by the end of the year. Like, it's so good. Just because it really makes you reflect on your own experience, I think, about dealing with your parents, what you would do if they died, if you have gone through that and are grieving. It just touches a lot of subjects, and also the way food connects us to our parents, our family, and our culture. I feel like that's very prevalent too in this book, and it made me want to learn a lot of my mother's recipes that I still don't know. I know some, but I feel like this book made me want to learn more of her recipes. So yeah, 10 out of 10 book. Really recommend it to anyone. And definitely the audiobook if you can. But yeah, 10 out of 10. Okay, so the next book I read, well, actually I was reading this book in like bits and pieces when I was reading these other books in February. And this was my book club pick. So yes, I did start the book club in January that I mentioned in last video. There's only 3 of us, including me. The fate is still unknown. It's only been a month, but this is the book we chose, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and I think I'll put the picture here. But I feel like if you haven't read it, you've at least heard about it. I feel like it gained a lot of popularity in recent years because of the show, and that's where I first heard about it. and I watched the show, loved it. Love the first season. The first few seasons are really good. And I'm really excited because I think in April of this year the last season comes out. So I'm excited. So this book, I feel like I have complicated feelings. Not because it was bad, but because I think my expectations were high, and I think watching the show kind of ruined the experience of reading this book, which is really sad. But because I really liked the show and I think I had some sort of idea of what the book was, but I actually read this one on my Kindle, and I'm just I think I just was a little underwhelmed. And not to say that I feel like this book was really well written. It's it just sucks because I already watched I feel like the first and second season, especially the first season, is all encapsulated in this book, and it basically like plots everything out for you. So it kind of felt like I was watching the show again through reading the book. I did get a little bit more insight into June's like inner thoughts, which was cool. A few things were different. I think the commander and Serena, if you haven't watched the show or read the book, I'm gonna like spoil it. But in the show, I feel like they're a lot younger. The commander and his wife, they're like 40s maybe. But in the book, I'm pretty sure they're really old. The way June describes them, and Serena has like a cane, which she doesn't have in the show. What else? Oh, in the book, we never see Moira after they meet at Jezebel's. I'm like, what the fuck? And also, how does June? Oh, the ending is unknown. It's open-ended, so we don't know if she escaped or not. What I do like though is at the end they had like a kind of like a, what is it called? Is it epilogue or prologue? No, it's epilogue. But it's basically like a interview at a college, like a couple. No, it's a lot. It's in the future, and it's describing like, I think the failures of, or no, it's just discussing like Gilead and what caused like America to create Gilead, and the whole like wives and handmaids and everything. And it discusses June's book, but I think it was actually, she recorded it in like some sort of device, and like in their discussion, I think it's just like two professors or something, and they're just discussing like they're trying to do their investigations, like trying to find who these people are, because the names are not actually in the recording, which is the book. It's kind of confusing, but I liked it because it was kind of looking at Gilead and June's experience retroactively, and they're like discussing why Gilead even existed in the first place. What I will say is I learned a lot of vocabulary. Margaret Atwood has a lot of words, complicated words I had never heard of. Here are just a few. Anachronism, a thing belonging to a period other than that in which it exists. Disconsolate, I feel like I should have known that one, but it's without consolation or comfort. These are just ones that I liked, but there was a lot more. lugubrious, I think. Looking or sounding sad and dismal. Yep. I really like the sound of this word. Presbyterian. Presbyterian? Presbyterian. Yeah. Relating to or denoting a Christian church. I just like the sound of that. Lithe or lithe, especially of a person's body, thin, supple, and graceful. Sibilant, sounds with a hissing effect. Compunction, a feeling of guilt that follows the doing of something bad. I really like that one. Oh my god, I wrote it a lot. Hold on. Okay, this is the last one I'll say. Which one? Taciturn. Of a person reserved or uncommunicative in speech, saying little. Taciturn. Can you spell taciturn? Yeah, a lot of cool words. And yeah, I also it was really cool seeing how much of the book was incorporated into the actual show, especially like those first few seasons. But it was just a little underwhelming for me because I was just picturing the movie the show the whole time. And again, it was a well-written book, but I think it's just like, oh, I've seen this film before. So, which sucks. I feel like I had too much high expectations. But I think it's just a testament to how good the show is and how well it's adapted from the book. So, if anything, hats off to you, Margaret. You did well. Also, sorry. Yeah, if you just heard of the show or are interested in reading the book, I would read the book first, just because, yeah, I feel like if you read the book after, it's a completely different experience. So I would love to hear from anyone who's read the book before and how they felt about it, just because I feel like my experience was ruined in a way because I already watched the show. Okay, so the last book, that was the end of the completed books. So Giovanni's Room, Crying in H Mart, and The Handmaid's Tale. But I also am in the process of reading The Undocumented Americans by Carla Cornejo. Actually, I should put it. I think there's more space here. And yeah, it's basically this is kind of a nonfiction, or it is a nonfiction, I should say. So Carla's a journalist. No, she's a journalist. And the way this book is presented is that she's a journalist, and after Trump was elected, she decided to go out and actually interview and write down the stories of immigrant people all around the US. So she starts in New York, goes to Miami. That's where I'm at right now. And yeah, it just documents and tells the stories of these immigrant people and how they are just, trying to get by working with whatever work they give them, even though they're undocumented. And I think it's a really important book right now. It is crazy to read this, though, knowing that Trump is elected again. And I feel like all these stories just, it's a tale as old as time, at least in the Mexican community, Hispanic community. But I would say it's definitely a good read because it just highlights the stories of people that are marginalized community that really, when you dive deep into the stories. They're just like everyone else. I know, shocking, surprising. They're just trying to get by, doing the best they can with life, with what's been given to them. And yeah, this book is also teaching me a lot that I didn't know, like that during 9/11, a lot of the people and first responders, not like real first responders, but like people who helped clean up the debris and stuff like that. A lot of them were undocumented immigrants, who were also Mexican, and also another ethnicity, but I forgot. But a lot of them were Mexican, and they were not provided the proper safety equipment, care, so a lot of them still suffer from physical and mental illnesses to this day because of 9/11 and the way they were, not cared for. And yeah, it's a really good book. I'm enjoying it, and I think you should pick it up if you want to learn more about undocumented people in this country and why they're people too, and they deserve respect. Yeah. Sorry, I got like political, but so I want to kind of end this video off with first starting or saying like how this reading journey has been going so far, and then also just talk about some books that I'm excited to read. So let's start off with the reading journey so far. So read 3 books, and that's good. Let's be honest, before I wouldn't have read any, so we're already doing great. I'm not gonna lie to you guys though, I feel like I've been slacking, at least in the last half of February, and because in January I was really, January resolutions and stuff, new year, new me, and I was just like gung-ho, and I was really strict about like reading to go to sleep, and then waking up and reading a little bit, and that really helped me like get through books relatively quickly, or I should say like within a week, and I really liked it. But I feel like I've been slacking a little bit, and this month too, so I really want to get better at that and become stricter. At least if I can't do both, then at least one, like maybe one at night and one waking up like in the morning, alternating or something like that. But yeah, because the alternative is just like scrolling or watching YouTube, and it's like I feel like I just waste my time. So like I'm really gonna try and make it a priority to, I think the morning is easier. When I wake up, just pick up a book, read a few pages, and we're good. And it's weird. You think like, in the last video before I said, I used to love reading, and but like it's like a habit that you have to develop, and if you don't develop it, then you're not gonna read anything. So I'm gonna try to become a little bit stricter this month and trying to implement that nightly and morning routine somehow. So to end this video, I think I'm just gonna go over like some genres or books that I'm excited to read. So it's weird, but so the app that I've been using to read books on my Kindle is called Libby, and it's a free e-reader and audio app that lets you borrow books from your local library. And I decided to borrow A Court of Thorns and Roses, that really popular romance fantasy book. And it's weird, I had never read the synopsis until like yesterday when I borrowed it. But it's weird, like The Handmaid's Tale I also borrowed from Libby, and it was like there was like a few people waiting, but it said it was gonna take like a few weeks, and it did take like a week for it to be like for me to be able to borrow it. But this one, Court of Thorns and Roses, it was literally yesterday, and then the next day it was like, oh, you can borrow it now. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I feel like this book is way more popular, at least right now, than The Handmaid's Tale. So I was expecting, a whole month before I read it. So I'm excited. I hope. I literally know nothing about it except that it's really popular. It's romance and it's fantasy. And the synopsis, which was intriguing enough. But I'll be honest, if I read that synopsis alone without the context of how popular this book was, I probably wouldn't pick it up. But I'm getting it for free. I'm gonna read it on my Kindle, so it's we'll see. I also want to read Aragon. I've had that book for so long. I forget where I got it. I'm pretty sure it was donated. I got it at school. But I feel like it's one of the classics, and I really want to, I guess I'm just in the mood to read fantasy. And that's kind of going to be my attitude going forward, is like whatever I want to read, I'm just going to read it. So I think I'm going to read that. And yeah, those are kind of the only two so far that I'm like, know that I want to read this month. So yeah, but it's always exciting to like pick out the new books that you want to read. So I'm excited for this month. Thank you for watching. I hope you're reading too. It's really good for you. So pick up a book. Don't be scared. You got this. Thank you for watching. Have a good day or night or whatever.